Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their offseason plan. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the video. Talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How can we turn this team into a Super Bowl contending team? So first, starting off with cuts and or trades, we're at positive $2 million. So I decided to do no cuts that were unnecessary and just add to the team overall instead of doing no cuts. So bring back everyone who was already on contract, and that's what we're going to be going with. Then for restructures, some restructures I'm going to be doing is Baker. I'm going to restructure him for $14 million. Restructure him for $21.5 million. And that frees up a lot of money. Restructuring Tristan Wirfs frees up $20 million. Restructure Mike Evans frees up $15 million. Antoine Winfield frees up 15, and Vita Vea frees up 10. So all these guys I see for a majority of their rest of their careers will be on this team. So I don't see any reason that why I wouldn't want to restructure these dudes and push up money down the line. Opens up $81.5 million. That's a lot of money to play with. Making our re-signings $84 million. That's a great number to start at. First re-sign I'm going to be doing is Lavonte David. Lavonte David last year had 90 tackles, 6 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 53 run stops, and 29 pressures. He was the top 5 linebacker in every statistic last year, and I think he doesn't get talked about enough. Even though everyone talks about him, he's still not talked about enough. He wants to be a Buccaneer for life, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep re-signing him until he's ready to retire. Jason Light, the GM, says he's the perfect player and the perfect Buccaneer, so I do think he will be returning to the team. You know, I just don't see one of their franchise's best players leaving, especially when they're still a quality team. It's not like they're 1-15 or anything. Like, they were just in the playoffs. Just had one of the best offenses in the league. So I do see Lavonte David returning next year. He might retire, though. There is some rumors that he might retire, but if he does want to come back, Jason Light has already said he's a perfect player, the perfect Buck. He'll be a Buck for life. So 1 year for $5.5 million to bring back Lavonte David. Next is going to be Shaq Barrett's re-signing as well. He had 1 tackle and 0 sacks last year, but he came out of retirement for a playoff push. His family went through some horrible stuff. If you guys are wondering what happened with his family, please look up Shaq Barrett family. I completely understand why he wanted to retire. And then once the situation got handled a little bit more, he was like, you know what? I'm ready to come back. And he went to the Buccaneers and said, I want to come back and play for you guys. And the Buccaneers signed him. So he took some time away from the NFL. And I completely understand that. 100%, I think everyone in the league can understand. Once you know what he went through, fully understand taking time with your kids. He does say he wants to play another 2 to 3 years. So if I'm the Buccaneers, he's still a quality pass rusher. He was with our team to win a Super Bowl. He's been a very good pass rusher for us. And another guy that Todd Bowles says is the leader in the locker room. So Todd Bowles will stick up for him. The front office obviously still likes him. They signed him when he came out of retirement again this season. They signed him very quickly, and he played the very next week. Like, they obviously like him. He chose Tampa Bay over Detroit and Philadelphia. Both of those teams were in Shaq Barrett's office trying to convince him to sign with their team. But Shaq Barrett met with Jason Light, met with Todd Bowles, and I want to return to your guys' team. So I think Shaq Barrett, yet again, will choose to return to Tampa Bay, and that's what he'll do. So 1 year, $4.5 million, I think that's a quality number because, Shaq Barrett obviously last year doesn't have much statistics. So you bring him in, you fully guarantee the contract, and say, Shaq, here's another 1 year deal. You're going to be our veteran pass rusher who can help these young guys develop even more. Next, we have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, another pass rusher I'm going to be bringing back. Last year, had 18 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 14 run stops, and 22 pressures. He hasn't really developed into the pass rusher they had hoped. Former first-round pick, just never really caught on as a premier pass rusher. He has shown slight improvement every year. I do think he does have a role in the NFL as a rotation pass rusher, but you definitely need to reinvest in more edges. Bringing back Shaq Barrett and Joe Tryon, that is not enough for next season. So I definitely may bring back Joe Tryon, but still invest in more edges. Bring him back for 1 year, see if you can have that breakout season, and then if you want to re-sign him after that, awesome. But if you want to let him walk, get a comp pick, that's also viable. But if I'm the Buccaneers, bring back Joe Tryon, give him another season, see what he can do. So it'd be him, Shaq Barrett, and Lavonte David, are the 3 guys that I'd be bringing back on 1 year deals. So entering free agency, you have $72 million. That's a lot of money to go out and make some big signings. And I do make a few big signings. First off, I'm going to go with offensive lineman Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green last year had a 48 PFF grade, 19 pass blocking, which is laughable, and 62 PFF grade. He's a former 3rd-round pick. His career definitely nosedived in Houston. I do still think he's a good run blocker, though. To me, the infrastructure in Tampa is way better for him to, get back on track with his career. It's a low risk, high reward move. And if he's good enough in training camp, he definitely could earn a starting role. Right now, right guard has a glaring hole. And with Cody Moak, Graham Barton, they have a really young interior offensive line core they're building. Kendrick Green can come in and potentially be a part of that young interior offensive line core. 1 year, $2.5 million, not awful for Kendrick Green. I think it's a pretty solid number for what he can provide for you. Again, at worst, as a backup, at best, a starter for you for dirt cheap. Next, it'd be Josh Uche. Josh Uche last year had 16 tackles, 2 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 10 run stops, and 14 pressures. Was once one of my favorite rotation edges in the league. I always thought Josh Uche had what it took in the NFL to really blossom. Never really happened. New England moved on from him due to Keon White's emergence last offseason. And they're just like, you know what? Halfway through the season, we're going to trade him to Kansas City because we want Keon White to be our premier pass rusher. Josh Uche isn't really working out. Let's move on from him. He never broke KC's playoff rotation due to the depth that Kansas City has. So he didn't really play much in the playoffs. And once he got traded, it just never really materialized in Kansas City. I think we're trying to make him replicate his 11.5 sack season in 2022. And I think this could be a group that he starts getting starting minutes in, right? I think he can definitely fight Joe Tryon and Shaq Barrett for starting minutes. And if that's something that can happen, awesome. If not, it's only $3.5 million for 1 year. It's a guy you take a shot on who previously had a good season. Is still very young. I believe he's only 25 years old. So he's still young, still entering the prime of his career. That if Josh Uche can get it back on track, could easily next offseason, if he gets 6, 7, 8 sacks, could easily go and get $6-7 million a year next year on another team. You get a comp pick next year. Then another sign I'm going to be doing is DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence last season had 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 7 run stops, and 9 pressures. He went on IR after week 4, so all those stats were in 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, he had 3 sacks, 7 run stops, and 9 pressures. He was on a start to a great year opposite Micah Parsons. Unfortunately, it was just a career year this happened. So I think DeMarcus Lawrence is thinking, I need to cash in one more time before I retire, and I need to regenerate buzz about my name. For me, I think DeMarcus Lawrence would fit like a glove. They never had a D line like this, where they had Shaq Barrett, Joe Tryon, Josh Uche, DeMarcus Lawrence, and you'll see in the draft a high-end draft guy on the edge. They never had a defensive line like this under Todd Bowles. So DeMarcus Lawrence comes in, is that another veteran presence who is very good, opposite of Shaq Barrett. But most likely to me, will end up in Washington with Dan Quinn, try and go after a Super Bowl and reunite with his former defensive coordinator. But if he does want to come to Tampa Bay, I'd give him a 2-year, $24 million deal, $16.5 million guaranteed at 68% guaranteed. That's what I'm willing to do for DeMarcus Lawrence, the Mr. $100 million man. If I'm not mistaken, he's the first edge rusher to ever get $100 million on a contract. So that's definitely something worth talking about, right? I like DeMarcus Lawrence. I think he's a very solid locker room guy. I've heard nothing bad about him. And every year, he shows up, gets 10 to 12 sacks, and goes about his time. I think he's a very good player. And again, at his age, he's still shown that he has it. So if he doesn't go to Washington, I think Tampa Bay is a great landing spot for him. Finally, I'm gonna be signing Dyami Brown from the Washington Commanders. Last year in regular season and postseason, he had 44 receptions, 537 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In the end of the season, into the playoffs, he really became Jaden Daniels' main first down guy. Like, there was not really any other guys that he was looking for when, you had Terry McLaurin on the outside getting double covered. You had Zach Ertz fighting the linebackers. Dyami Brown really became that dude that he would just find to try and get 8, 9, 10, 11 yards a catch. He earned himself some money this offseason with that stretch he had at the end of the season. For me, this is the Chris Godwin replacement. I do think Chris Godwin is going to get priced out of Tampa Bay to where he goes somewhere else for a massive contract, especially now that T. Higgins got franchise tagged. Chris Godwin is one of the best guys on the market now. This side has a solid deep game too. Baker loves throwing those deep balls. Dyami Brown does have a little bit of speed to him and can get separation. So I think Baker could end up really liking Dyami Brown. So I signed Dyami to a 2-year, $14 million deal, $9.5 million guaranteed at 68%. So now you have Mike Evans, Dyami Brown, Jalen McMillan, and a bunch of other guys that are on rookie contracts that have moments that I really like what they're doing. And you have Cade Otton at tight end. That's a pretty good receiving room and it has a lot of upside as well. So entering the draft, you have $43 million. I decided to not go too crazy on cap money, and so on cap spending. I just don't think this is a team that's going to be spending a whole lot of cap. So if you want to go back and not restructure some of the guys that are restructured, like let's say we just take away Baker Mayfield's restructure that we did earlier in the video, that would be, let me see the number. That would be $21.5 million that you don't restructure, you don't push down the line that you don't need to. So that would be then positive $22 million in the cap space. If you undo Baker's restructure, it's still a good number. You can go out and get a few more guys. So let's just imagine we don't restructure Baker, and that's where we end up being, is positive 22. That's pretty solid. You get a bunch of defensive additions to really help this defensive line, because that was the big issue last year, was the defensive line, and now you've massively improved it in free agency, and we do even more in the draft. So at number 19, I'm going to grab Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Shamar, he tested out of this world at the Combine. He had a perfect 10 RAS score, which is #1 of all time at the Combine in the NFL since 1985. Now, for me, Combine doesn't mean too much when it comes to the RAS score. What I care more about is how does this translate into your game in college football. Shamar Stewart, very athletic, very speedy, very powerful. He's 6'6", 290. So the fact that he has that massive frame and he's that athletic, that gives me a lot of hope. He never really boomed in college, so honestly, this is taking a shot on a dude. But a lot of guys are now saying he's top 10, top 15 guaranteed. I'm not really sure about that. You know, obviously, Trayvon Walker a few years ago had a really good combine, and that propelled him to #1. But we all agree, right, that Trayvon Walker is not the #1 edge rusher on the Jaguars. That is very honestly still Josh Hines-Allen. So Shamar Stewart, I think, is going to fall a little bit more than people are expecting, but he's for sure a guaranteed top 20 pick. So at number 19, grabbing Shamar Stewart is good value still. Then at number 51, probably the best value in the entire draft right here, is Nick Emanwori from South Carolina. Y'all know I love these South Carolina and Ole Miss players on defense. Nick is absolutely a first-round pick. There's no way he's not a first-round pick. So if he's available at 51, grab him, and thank God that he fell to 51. He's an elite run defender, great coverage safety. He only allowed a 37% completion percentage in college football last year, and he moved all around the secondary, at deep safety, at strong safety, at slot corner, on boundary corner. He played everywhere. So Nick Emanwori, I think, could be a chess piece for Todd Bowles. They already like to use Antoine Winfield like that. Now you have Antoine Winfield and Nick Emanwori who can kind of, go back and forth. Nick more of a deep safety, free safety, while Antoine Winfield's that strong safety, but they can go back and forth between each other and really mess with defenses. Then at number 83, Jared Wilson from Georgia. Jared Wilson is a starting level center in the 3rd round. Great pass blocker. You did draft Graham Barton in the first last year. He's playing center for you. So you want to move Graham Barton to guard or Jared Wilson to guard. My idea here is just to upgrade the offensive line with good talent from good colleges that played good defenses. And Jared Wilson was a very good center last year in the SEC with Georgia, faced a lot of really good defenses and never let up. That's a guy I want on my team. He's not always a perfect scheme fit, but if you're a good football player, you're a good football player. Then at number 120, grabbing Antoine Power-Ryland from Virginia Tech, one of my guys in day 3 that I really like. The last 2 years, he has 24 sacks and 50 pressures. That's really good. Like, you can't beat that. Most guys in the college football don't have those numbers. But I am a double dip at edge because I do think this edge room needs more depth, needs more talent. He's a solid run defender too. So now you have Antoine Power-Ryland, Shamar Stewart as the young additions to the room. You now have Joe Tryon, Shaq Barrett, DeMarcus Lawrence, Josh Uche. That is a 6-man group that next year can feast and feast off each other as well. Then at number 156, grabbing Cody Simon from Ohio State University. Cody Simon, again, was a starter for Ohio State in their championship run. Good for him. Last year, 20 coverage stops in coverage. That was 11th in college football. I mean, top 11 is really good in coverage stops as a linebacker. He's also active in the run defense as well. In coverage, he also forced 4 incompletions, which I believe was top 15 in college football at linebacker. To me, he's a very good high-end rotation guy day 1, and he's my eventual Levante David replacement, right? I think Cody Simon has all the ability to really develop into a really good linebacker. From a premier school, played a lot of really good guys in Ohio State in the Big Ten, all the way to the national championship. Cody Simon played a lot of good guys, and I think that could translate to the NFL. Again, if you play NFL talent in college football and you don't let up, you can definitely play in the NFL, especially in the 156, being a high-end rotation guy day 1. That's going to be really good for Cody Simon's development. Then at number 237, I'm a double dip at linebacker, just like I did at edge, with Aaron Smith from South Carolina State University. He's great in the run defense, needs work in coverage, but he averaged 7 tackles a game, most of it in the run defense, not in coverage. So that's all he is. He's a straight run defense linebacker. So I double dip at edge, I double dip at linebacker, and I grab a safety. That's 5 of my 6 draft picks because the offense doesn't need much work, right? It was a number 1 or number 2 offense last year. Repeat the work, let it, redo what you gotta do. In free agency, maybe add another offensive lineman, maybe add another wide receiver, high-end wide receiver. But most overall, the offense does not need a lot of work. This defense needs work, though. That's why Shamar Stewart, I invest very early. Nick Emanwari, I invest very early. And towards the end is guys that can play high-end rotation players of position groups that already have veterans there. Antoine Power-Ryland probably won't see much playing time, but it's depth and hopeful projection. Cody Simon, higher-end rotation guy day 1. Aaron Smith, maybe can play some rotation minutes day 1, but more than likely it's just a special teams guy who can come in for a few run defense snaps. But yeah, that is my offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to try and win a Super Bowl next year. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below what you think and what you would do for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you like what I did in the draft? Do you like what I did in free agency? Didn't spend a whole lot of money. I just didn't think they would really need it. I'd rather, go for these 1-2 year deals to try and get this team over the top and, mainly build to the draft. That's what the Eagles did. That's what the Chiefs have done. Built to the draft, draft quality players who can, with long-term projection, high value. That's what I decided to do. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.